Imagine taking the smartest person you know. Maybe it's a scientist. Maybe it's a software engineer. Maybe it's someone with 3 college degrees and an IQ that most people can only dream of. Now take away their phone, their GPs, their food, their medicine, their clothes, their house. Then drop them into the African wilderness 70,000 years ago. How long do you think they'd survive? A week? 3 days? Maybe. They wouldn't even make it until the next sunrise. That's because intelligence isn't just about solving math problems or building computers. Intelligence is about solving the problems your environment throws at you. And for ancient humans, those problems were unlike anything we face today. Every single day was an exam. Where can you find clean water? Which berries will keep you alive? And which ones will kill you? Can you tell if those footprints belong to a harmless deer or a hungry predator? One mistake wasn't embarrassing. It was fatal. Today, we often picture ancient humans as primitive. We imagine people who barely knew how to survive, living short and miserable lives while waiting for civilization to rescue them. But archaeology tells a very different story. The people who lived tens of thousands of years ago weren't failures waiting for modern humans to arrive. They were the greatest survivors our species has ever produced. Think about it. They crossed continents without maps, found food without grocery stores, built tools without factories, raised families without hospitals, and somehow managed to survive in a world filled with predators, brutal winters, deadly diseases, and constant uncertainty. Meanwhile, many of us panic when the Wi-Fi stops working for 10 minutes. So here's the real question. Were ancient humans actually less intelligent than us? Or have we simply changed the definition of what intelligence means? Because if you handed an ancient hunter a smartphone, he probably wouldn't know what to do with it. But if you handed you a stone spear and left you alone in the wilderness, would you survive? Probably not. And that's exactly why this question is so fascinating. For a long time, scientists believed that human intelligence has steadily increased over time. It seems logical. We built cities, invented airplanes, landed on the moon, and created artificial intelligence. Surely that means we're smarter, right? Not necessarily. Modern civilization allows each of us to specialize. One person designs bridges, another writes software, someone else performs surgery. None of us has to know everything because society shares knowledge. Ancient humans didn't have that luxury. A single person often needed to understand dozens of survival skills at once. How to make fire, how to track animals, how to recognize hundreds of edible plants, how to avoid poisonous snakes, how to read the weather, how to build shelter, how to make tools, how to protect a family. That wasn't optional. It was everyday life. So before we call ancient humans primitive, maybe we should ask a different question. Not, were they smarter than us? But, what kind of intelligence did they have that we've almost completely lost? Because the answer might completely change the way you think about our ancestors. If you wanted to survive as an ancient human, being strong wasn't enough. You had to notice things that most modern people would never even see. Imagine walking through a forest. Most of us would see trees. An ancient hunter saw a story. A broken branch meant an animal had passed recently. Fresh footprints revealed not only what species it was, but also how many there were, how fast they were moving, and sometimes even how long ago they had been there. A patch of flattened grass could mean a herd had rested there the night before. To us, it's just dirt. To them, it was information. And they processed that information every single day. Without notebooks, without maps, without Google, just memory. Researchers who study modern hunter-gatherer societies have found something incredible. Experienced hunters can remember enormous landscapes in astonishing detail. They know where water appears after heavy rain, which trees produce fruit during different seasons, where dangerous animals usually travel, and which paths are safest for children. Their brains become living maps. Think about that for a second. Most of us can't remember where we parked our car in a shopping mall. Ancient humans remembered entire ecosystems. But memory wasn't their only superpower. Observation may have been even more important. Today, if rain is coming, we check the weather app. Ancient humans looked at clouds. They watched birds. They noticed changes in the wind. Even insects could tell them something about what was about to happen. Those tiny clues often meant the difference between finding shelter or getting caught in a dangerous storm. Then there was sound. Imagine sitting quietly in complete silence. No engines, no traffic, no airplanes, no phones vibrating in your pocket. Every sound mattered. The snap of a twig, the distant howl of wolves, the sudden silence of birds. Those sounds carried information. If the forest suddenly became quiet, something wasn't right. Maybe a predator had entered the area. Maybe another tribe was nearby. Either way, ignoring those signals could cost you your life. This wasn't a special survival challenge. It was just another ordinary day. What's fascinating is that none of these skills required a higher IQ. They required constant attention. Modern life trains our brains to filter out information. Ancient life trained their brains to notice everything. In many ways, they were using the exact same human brain that we have today. Scientists estimate that Homo sapiens living 50,000 or even 100,000 years ago had brains nearly identical in size and structure to ours. The hardware was already there. The software was simply trained differently. Your brain has spent years learning passwords, phone numbers, traffic rules, and computer shortcuts. Their brain spent years learning how to stay alive. Neither system is useless. They're just solving completely different problems. And that's why comparing intelligence across thousands of years isn't as simple as asking who had the higher IQ. Because if survival were the final exam, ancient humans would probably outperform every one of us. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, and suddenly every supermarket has disappeared. Every gas station, every pharmacy, every restaurant. Your phone has no signal. Your car won't start. The power is gone. How long could you survive using nothing but the knowledge inside your own head? For most people, the honest answer is, not very long. That isn't because we're less intelligent, it's because we've outsourced our intelligence. Today, we don't remember directions. Our phones do. We don't memorize phone numbers. Our contacts do. We don't know which plants are edible. The grocery store does. We don't understand the stars. GPS does. Modern civilization has become an extension of our brain. Each invention solves a problem, so we don't have to. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's one of humanity's greatest achievements. But it comes with a hidden cost. Every generation becomes more specialized and less self-sufficient. Ancient humans were the exact opposite. They couldn't depend on anyone else except the people in their tribe. Every useful skill had to live inside someone's mind. If nobody remembered where water could be found during a drought, everyone suffered. If nobody knew how to make fire after heavy rain, everyone froze. Knowledge wasn't convenient. It was survival. One of the most impressive examples comes from tracking. Professional trackers living today in parts of Africa have amazed scientists with abilities that seem almost impossible. They can study a single footprint in the dirt and tell whether it belonged to a man or a woman, whether the person was carrying something heavy, whether they were walking calmly or running in fear. Sometimes they can even estimate a person's age simply by studying the size and shape of the tracks. Now imagine people who practice those skills every single day from childhood, for thousands of generations. Ancient hunters didn't just follow footprints. They reconstructed entire events, a few broken branches, some disturbed soil, a handful of prints. To them, it was like reading a newspaper. They knew where an animal had stopped, where it changed direction, where it became frightened, where another predator might have appeared. It's an incredible form of intelligence that most of us have completely lost. Then there's memory. Scientists estimate that ancient hunter-gatherers needed to recognize hundreds of different plants, not just their names, but exactly when they grew, which parts were safe to eat, which became poisonous during certain seasons, which could treat wounds, which helped reduce fever, which kept insects away. One mistake could poison an entire family. That knowledge wasn't written in books, it lived inside human memory, generation after generation. Parents taught children, grandparents taught grandchildren. Stories became textbooks. Experience became science. In many ways, their education never ended. Every walk through the forest became another lesson. Every failed hunt taught something new. Every successful hunt reinforced knowledge that had taken thousands of years to develop. And perhaps the most surprising part, ancient humans rarely learned alone. Survival wasn't about one genius saving everyone. It was about cooperation. Anthropologists believe one reason Homo sapiens became so successful was our extraordinary ability to share information. One hunter discovers a better spear. Soon, the entire tribe knows. Someone finds a safer campsite. Everyone benefits. One person learns a new way to start fire. That knowledge spreads across generations. Human intelligence wasn't just inside one brain. It existed inside the group. That's something we still do today. Except instead of sharing hunting techniques around a campfire, we share videos, books, and ideas across the internet. The tools have changed, but the instinct to learn from one another may be one of the oldest human abilities of all. Were ancient humans actually smarter? After everything we've explored, it's time to answer the question. Were ancient humans actually smarter than us? The answer is both yes and no. It all depends on how you define intelligence. Today, intelligence is usually measured with exams, degrees, IQ tests, or the ability to solve abstract problems. Can you calculate equations? Can you write computer code? Can you understand physics? Those are incredible abilities. But none of them would help you very much if you suddenly found yourself standing alone in the African savanna 70,000 years ago. In that world, intelligence looked completely different. The smartest person wasn't the one who knew the most facts. It was the one who could keep everyone alive. Imagine a child getting sick. Someone in the tribe had to know which plants reduced pain. Someone had to recognize dangerous symptoms. Someone had to decide whether to move camp or stay. There were no doctors, no hospitals, no medicine cabinets. Every decision carried enormous consequences. Now imagine food suddenly becoming scarce. Animals have migrated. The rivers are drying up. Winter is arriving. The tribe has children and elderly people to feed. The leader can't simply order food online. He has to make a decision based on experience, memory, observation, and instinct. Should they stay? Should they move? Should they risk crossing unfamiliar territory? One wrong choice could mean starvation for dozens of people. That kind of pressure is almost impossible for most of us to imagine. Our ancestors made those life or death decisions over and over again. Not once, not twice, but throughout their entire lives. What's even more impressive is that they achieved all of this without writing. Think about that. Everything they knew existed only inside human minds. There were no books explaining how to build a spear, no survival manuals, no YouTube tutorials. Every important lesson had to be remembered perfectly and passed to the next generation. One forgotten technique could disappear forever. That's why storytelling became so important. When people gathered around the fire at night, they weren't just entertaining each other. They were preserving knowledge. A story about someone being attacked near a river might sound like entertainment, but to the listeners, it was also a survival lesson. A story about poisonous berries wasn't just a story. It was a warning. A story about a successful hunt taught patience, teamwork, and strategy. Long before schools existed, stories became humanity's first classrooms. In many ways, those conversations helped build the civilization we know today. But here's something even more fascinating. Scientists believe the human brain hasn't changed very much over the last 40 to 50,000 years. The brain inside your head is almost identical to the brain of a hunter who lived during the Ice Age. The difference isn't biology, it's environment. If a newborn baby from the Stone Age were somehow raised in today's world, that child would likely grow up learning math, science, languages, and technology, just like anyone else. And if a modern baby were raised by a hunter-gatherer tribe, they would probably become an excellent tracker, toolmaker, and survivor. The brain adapts to whatever world it grows up in. That's the real secret of human intelligence. It isn't fixed. It isn't locked inside our DNA. It's flexible. It's shaped by challenges. Our ancestors became masters of survival because survival demanded it. We became masters of technology because civilization demanded it. Neither generation was born smarter than the other. They simply mastered different worlds. So perhaps the better question was never, were ancient humans smarter than us? Maybe the real question is, what incredible abilities have we traded away for comfort? Because every time your phone tells you where to go, every time a calculator solves a problem or a search engine remembers something for you, you're using tools that ancient humans never had. But they possessed tools that can't be downloaded. Patience, observation, memory, adaptability, and perhaps the most valuable skill of all, the ability to survive when absolutely everything went wrong. So the next time someone calls ancient humans primitive, remember this. They weren't building civilization. They were building the people who eventually would. And without their extraordinary intelligence, none of us would be here today. Before you go, here's something to think about. If you were dropped into the Stone Age tomorrow, with nothing but the knowledge in your head, how long do you honestly think you'd survive? A day? A week? Or would you become one of the few who could adapt? Let me know your answer in the comments. I read every one of them, and some of your ideas might even inspire future videos. If you enjoyed exploring humanity's forgotten past, make sure to subscribe to Human Dawn. Every week, we uncover the incredible stories, discoveries, and mysteries that shaped our species long before civilization began. Until next time, keep exploring our origins.